Field described Bo as loyal, hardworking, and charismatic. Having earned many recognitions in his professional field, including Rookie of the Year after his first 12 months as an investment professional, he was recognized with the prestigious IPI Regional Director of the Year in both 2008 and 2007, Mr. Bo Rester.
In 1773, a group of American colonists had gathered together and said, "We've had enough." For over the previous 10 years, King George had continued to implement tax after tax because the French and Indian War had been too expensive. He thought, "I'll tax the people to recover the cost." 10 years into that, he implemented the tea tax. And the people said, "Enough is enough. We're not going to pay your tax. In fact, we're not going to let your ships dock in our harbors." So in the summer of '73, British Parliament said, "Let's get together and enact a 1,000-page legislation. And on the very bottom of it, we'll hide in there this small tax." They reduced the price of the tea down to a point that they could buy it cheaper than they ever could have before, but they didn't abolish the tax. And the American colonists said, "You can't fool us again. We won't pay your tax. We'll deny ourselves what we've always considered a luxury. We'll do without our tea because we won't pay your tax."
That's right.
December 16th of that same year, ships began to land in the harbors around the country. They were turned away and sent back to Britain. "We won't take your tea." In Boston, the same thing happened. But the Royal Governor of Boston, Thomas Hutchinson, said, "I won't send it back. You'll eventually pay our tax." So a group of about 7,000 reconvened at the Old South Hall and said, "What will we do about it?" 200 men then gathered around and, dressed in Indian garb, went on board those ships, and after about 3 hours destroyed the tea and threw it in the Boston Harbor. I said, "If you won't take it back, we'll take care of it. We're not paying your tax. We're not drinking your tea." That became a series of firsts, and that was the original Tea Party. Our forefathers laid the groundwork for us to follow by. Over the years, we have done that. Today, we're taking steps that were taken in 1773 and say we'll do a friendly protest to begin with, because we're at a point where enough is enough. Early in 1774, British Parliament said, "We'll enact the Coercion Act, also known as the Intolerable Act, and we'll close Boston Harbor, shutting off all commerce. We'll starve you to death. You'll pay our tax." That group of citizens said, "We'll be peaceful." They enacted, again, another first. They had the First Continental Congress, who petitioned the British Parliament and said, "Please do away with all that. We're not going to pay taxes for no representation." British Parliament didn't act on it, and in 1775 was the start of the American Revolution. Those people started and said, "There's enough. We're going to take action." And they continued to step through the process. In the summer of 1999, I had the distinct privilege of being able to be in the nation's capital on Memorial Day. My family and I made our ways to the bottom step at the Tomb of the Unknowns early in the morning to be able to see the President lay the wreath and conduct that memorial ceremony. It was impressive, unbelievable. I'd recommend it to you all. Memorial Day in Washington, D.C. Try to get it on your calendar. My family, after the ceremony, went back to the hotel, and I decided I needed to spend the rest of the day in that area. I was so moved by it. I went to the Lincoln Memorial and saw the service there, the Vietnam Memorial, and saw the service there. Up to the Washington Monument to see a service, and just in and out of there all day. Spent time in the Arlington National Cemetery. It's so graced with those headstones, aligned in every direction you look. For the lives of countless Americans that have honored each of us by giving sometimes their life, but at least service to our country to protect what we have. I spent that day and realized I need to do something. I've got to commemorate this day. I haven't served in the nation's armed services, but I've got to leave here and do something. I walked by a little hut, had pins, lapel pins, caps, t-shirts, things for sale. I said, I got to get something out of there I can commemorate this day by. I dug around and found a box over to the side with some Ziploc bags in it. And I wear the bracelet today of a POW that I found in that box. I realized at that point that I wanted to wear that bracelet. And I wear it 2 distinct times of the year. The story of James A. Champion from Houston, Texas is an incredible story. And I'd love to tell it to you, but I can't today. Gather a group together sometime and I'll come tell you. And I'll tell you what 2 dates I wear it on and why I wear it. But one of the things I wanted you to know is the main reason I wear it is because I have to remind myself that I don't want to soak up the liberties of this country and not having given back. If James A. Champions were to show up today after having been potentially in captivity for 40 years and said, Bo, thanks for wearing my bracelet, but what have you done with what I gave? I want to ask you, I could have come to you today as a financial advisor and said, now your financial plan should include selling positions while there's still a capital gains tax. But you know those things. The 5 speakers that have gone before me have told you about things that you need to be aware of. You all know those things. The thing that I wanted to leave you with was a thought that says we've got to do something about it. The best business principle I ever was taught was that if you don't like the way things are going, you got to be willing to do something about it. So today when we think about 1773 and those first steps that were taken were people that said we're willing to do something about it, that followed through, and the culmination of their acts and the fruits of their labor were recognized on this day in 1776 when they declared our independence. If we continue to sit around and do as Shane said and just amen Sean Hannity from the recliner, we sound nothing more than about like this. I don't want to sound that way. It's time for our voices to be heard, and not like this, but like this. Let's do what it takes to let Washington know we're willing to do something about it. God bless America.